Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. See, today I'll be sharing my thoughts and my analysis of the recently held UPSC Prelims exam 2023, right? See, many of you had messaged me and called me yesterday asking for my thoughts on the exam. Sorry, you should have made the video yesterday, Monday, but it's taken me a little while because, see, I had to sort of write the paper, analyze the paper, talk to some of my students who had taken the test, and even gather my own thoughts on it. See, now that I've done all of those, my thoughts are a little clearer now. So let's get started and right to the point. See, my thoughts on the expected cutoff, let me just put it straight away. Okay. I expect the cutoff to come down to a great extent, and I'll also tell you why. See, the first reason is going to be this. Okay. The first thing that I see, and something that you have encountered, is that there are changes in the exam pattern that seems to have caught many students off guard. See, there were two major sort of changes in the paper one exam pattern. Okay. Uh, One you can see on the left hand side, and the other you can basically see on the right hand side, right? The first noticeable change was the introduction of questions with different kinds of options. For instance, can you see this here? We had questions that had how many of the above statements are correct, not which of the statements are correct, but more about how many of them are correct. Okay, with options being only one statement is correct, only two statement is correct, only three statement is correct, or none of them is basically correct. Another sort of a pattern that we had seen this year, right, and that too in many questions, is the increased focus on these kind of questions. And these kind of questions are called assertion reasoning kind of questions, right? Now, this is something that you must have taken in your pre-college days, right? This is common in your NEET and many other sort of competitive exams as well, but not as common in UPSC, at least in recent years. If you look at the very first one, what exactly is the challenge here? See, take a look at this particular question. This is just an example from the question that from this particular year. See, you all might have read, in your geography NCRT, what is that? Indian Physical Environment, the Indian Physical Geography textbook, right? So you would know about this option, right? You know teak, you know about mahua, all of these things are deciduous trees, right? It is there, direct, right? Very, very direct. But you may not know about jackfruit tree. You have to use a little bit of intuition. You have to think about where exactly have you seen it and so on and so forth. But it's not directly given anywhere that you would study. See, so even if you know two of the three options that are given, so even if you know two out of the three options, it doesn't necessarily help you arrive at the correct answer through the kind of process that we used to follow, process of elimination that we've employed in the previous years. Okay, so only if we know all of the options, okay, could we confidently reach the final answer, at least with strong conviction, right, with certainty. So this also made it relatively difficult to determine the right answer, even after knowing even some part of this answer, right? For example, I'll give you just in comparison to the previous year kind of patterns, right? Um, so if you know some part of this answer, right? Let's say, again, let's go with this thing directly from the NCRT. Most of you, I think, would have known this, okay? If you look at the statement combinations, okay, and if, let's say, the options had something like this, if there was an option that is only one, okay, that has to be incorrect because the option has to basically have 2 and 3 in it, correct? Okay, and then even if it is like 2 only, because 3 also has to be part of it, 3 only, again, you can eliminate. Okay, 1 and 2, eliminate. 1 and 3, eliminate. So anytime you see any option that does not have 2 and 3, it is definitely not part of the answer. Even if you cannot reach the final answer, at least for sure you can eliminate many such many such options, right? So this always used to happen. But now, with this being given, the process of elimination is not something that you could do for many questions. And after sort of like narrowing it down, you still have to go with your gut instinct. You cannot say with certainty. Okay, even in questions, jahan you have done your background reading, right? So this is one such thing that you would have noted. And the second change in pattern, again, the assertion and reasoning kind of questions, right? See, these are different kind of questions. Okay, so of course it tests your knowledge. Okay, so if you look at these kind of questions, not only do students need to determine the correctness of the statements, is it right or wrong? Okay, apart from that, also you have to understand the explanatory relations between these statements, between your statement number 1 and your statement number 2. Okay, now again, this is just a sample question from your paper, just to make my point. See, if, for instance, from what I heard from my students, many students also found themselves to be in a dilemma. Okay, now see, option C and D are relatively easier if it is just about the correctness of the statement. Statement one is correct, the other one is incorrect. Statement one is incorrect, the other one is correct. Relatively okay. But what if you know that both of them are correct? Even if you know both of them are correct, there is still a issue. You have to select between A and B. A is that both of them are correct, but B is basically the reason for one to be correct. Okay, and the other way around for the other one. So even if you get that, okay, again, you have to think about the explanatory relationships between these. Okay, is that statement okay because of so and so kind of a reason? Now again, this is something, see, these kind of questions are going to require you to invest a little more time. You'll have to analyze the statements to a greater extent, a little more in depth, right? And then you have to choose your option that best aligns with the relationship between the two statements, statement one and statement two. In fact, one of my students told me that he was able to attempt 10 less okay questions than he generally attempts in most of the mock tests, okay, because the assertion and reasoning kind of questions took him a lot longer than expected, right? So again, this is a big sort of a challenge that you had sort of like come across in this one, right? So that is that. So questions like this again made the paper relatively on the harder side, despite the fact that most of the students would have prepared, and it's difficult to you can't say this thing with certainty, or at least you have to invest a lot more time here and be hard pressed for time in other kind of questions, right? So this is definitely a challenge that most of you have found. The third reason why I feel the cutoff will come down is again on account of this. Right now, this is something that most of you know. If you talk about the expected increases in selections this year, right? First of all, it's good news for the aspirants, right? The number of available seats has definitely gone up. 1011 in the previous year. That is a revised number all the way to 1105. Okay, now this results in nearly 1,000 more students qualifying for UPSC mains exam. Right, for the next round, you're going to see 1,000 more people than they had in the previous year, in last year, okay, in this past year, sorry, right? And if you compare it to 2021, which is just 1 year behind this, right, that is a 55% increase from 712. So the number of seats, okay, and the number of people who are going to enter mains is going to be a lot more. So that again brings down your cutoff to a great extent. But the major reason why I feel the cutoff is going to fall, okay, and drastically so, is because of this. The last reason, right? If you take a look into the difficulty level of paper 2 this year, many students found it to be a little more on the challenging side. Okay, particularly when it comes to the quantitative section. Now, this is my analysis. Okay, now you might find it slightly different. See, reading comprehension, in my opinion. Okay, so let's take a look at the number of questions that you had. See, reading comprehension at 27. I know this for sure. Okay, I mean, it's easy to sort of classify here. Logical reasoning and quantitative aptitude, depending upon how you categorize them. See, 27 questions, more or less in sync with what we have seen in the past also, right? I would say the pattern, let's look at the number of questions. Okay, logical reasoning definitely has come down to a certain extent. Quantitative aptitude has actually seen a more increase in number of questions. However, when you think about the difficulty level, reading comprehension was relatively on the easier end, less in terms of philosophical questions. Many of these questions, if you could invest or allot a certain amount of time to it, you might be able to get 8 out of 10 questions, right? So you had a good one. But again, it really depends on whether you got to reading comprehension, okay, in the beginning itself, right? If you came to it a lot more towards the end, then it'll be a little more moderate, right? So again, it depends on that. Logical reasoning more or less in sync with the usual difficulty levels, but the number of questions have actually dropped this year, even in the previous year. But the biggest shocker was quantitative aptitude, right? Quantitative aptitude was definitely the shocker for most sort of students. See, quantitative aptitude is something that most of the students, especially when they want to go for short questions, they start with quantitative aptitude, and they definitely have certain areas, maybe speed, distance, and time, or the pipes and cisterns and mixtures and allegations. Right, this year the varieties of questions was relatively less. In fact, quite less. Right, most of the questions revolved around permutations, combinations, probability, or number systems. Now, let us say that in case you're not well versed with any of these, okay, either of these, then it is going to be very, very difficult. Now, these are not the kind of sections, especially permutations and combinations are not the kind of sections jahan pe, you can just basically study those formula, recall those formula, and be able to get to the final answer. It doesn't work that way, right? You've got to be able to read that question, understand what exactly the inputs, take out what is given from that particular question, and come out with an equation, right? Okay, so unless you get that equation right, your final answer is not going to be right, and it's very difficult to sort of like do any other kind of shortcuts, right? You can't look at the options and then back calculate. It is relatively on the harder end in case a student is not well versed with it. But the choices were relatively limited in the variety of questions, right? A lot of those questions revolved around this, and definitely I would say that it is difficult in comparison to previous years. I'll also give you some other examples. See, some of the students of mine who were scoring somewhere between 90 to 110, consistently in these mock tests, now are scoring somewhere between 70s and 80s. Right, so that again is like some 25-30 marks on average that has come down. In fact, one of my students, and very good student by the way, IIT Kanpur, no less. Okay, so technically sound. In fact, has a technical option as well, chemistry. Unfortunately, seems to be hovering around 60 now. Really feel sad for. Okay, another one of my students that I was talking to last night, he's IIT Delhi. He did not have much of a difficulty. He was saying he scored 110-ish, but he has his own sort of classmates. Okay, again, technically sound, who are either in the border or not going to be able to clear. In fact, he told me that one of his classmates, math optional, scoring 290 in the optional, okay, is also failing in this year's CSAT because of the quant. So it really hurts to see people clear paper one but miss out because of paper two. But this seems to be the case with many this year. Okay, so surely because of this, you will again see the cutoff, kind of coming down. So what could be the expected cutoff? See, I do anticipate a decrease in the cutoff. Okay, for sure. And again, what are the reasons? So the reasons, again, the challenging exam pattern, the new kind of type of questions, the difficulty level of paper two, the more number of seats. Okay, it's on account of most of those, right? So last year, if you see, in 2021, the cutoff was 87. Okay, 2022, the cutoff was 88, and I'm talking about the general category here. Definitely, I see the cutoff coming down by 3 to 4 questions. That could be anywhere between 8 to 10 marks. So net, I feel the cutoff is going to be between 78 and 80. No, it will not be 85. It will not be 86. It's not in that level, right? Paper is harder. Okay, there is a lot of change in the pattern. Okay, not all the students are going to respond really well to it. Okay, paper two has been very, very challenging. On top of that, you have more number of seats and more number of students are going to be writing means. Okay, the cutoff is bound to come down this year. So if you're anywhere in this range, okay, and even if in the border within this particular thing, please utilize this time wisely. And why do I say this? See, two things that we'll talk about: importance of time management, and especially with regard to preparation for mains. This is an important sort of a tip. Honestly, I don't believe 3 to 4 months is sufficient time for you to prepare for mains. Okay, you're going to have 3 to 3.5 months. In fact, it's 108 days from today, I believe. Okay, and I'm sure that most of you have your countdown timer already working. Okay, so it's 108, 109, depending upon when you see this, right? So if you consider even the optional subject, 3 to 4 months is insufficient time to prepare for mains. Okay, so results will be out in just 3 weeks. Now you might feel like, okay, abhi aa jayega, right? So let's just wait and see what's going to happen. But my suggestion is basically don't let this time, okay, these 20-21 days go to waste. Instead, use these weeks wisely. Okay, ensure that you at least get started. Okay, and complete something meaningful. Okay, whatever it is that you would want to get completed, just have it, right? So remember, 3 weeks out of this 90 to 110 days, okay, 90 to 100 days is basically around almost like 25% of your time, right? We simply cannot afford to start late. Okay, similarly with regard to this last month, right? So when I say it's 25, you have some 90, 100 days, right? If you also account for the last sort of month that you have to give for revision, okay, this period that you have, okay, these 3 weeks that you're going to have is approximately 30% of your time. So take a day off, take 2 days off, relax, and then dive straight into your mains preparation, right? You try to get yourself organized. Okay, start working diligently, begin writing answers. The most important thing, start writing answers, and most importantly, start creating a plan. Okay, reach out to your mentors for guidance. Work with them and try to sort of get some sort of a personalized plan. Okay, that probably caters to your own sort of strengths and weaknesses. Okay, my suggestion is, instead of like taking a standard approach, going and writing every single week, try to figure out like what exactly are your strengths, build on it. At the same time, what exactly are the weaknesses, start working on it daily. Okay, uske liye just keep 1 to 2 hours every single day to those areas that you consider are your weakness. Okay, and that has to be part of your plan. Doing all of these things will basically give you a big head start. Okay, that's how you sort of maximize your chance of success. Remember, every single day is going to count, especially between prelims and mains, and these 3 weeks can make a significant difference to your overall success, right? So make the most out of them, stay focused, okay, be very determined, okay, and give it your all, right? So with that, I would say, good lucks to your mains preparation. And again, if you need any help for mains and all of that, please feel free to reach out. um, and before we close, I also want to mention this. See, some of you So I just want to address those of you who may not have achieved the kind of results that they have desired in this year's prelims exam. Now, when I say that, the cutoff is going to be down, but let's say you're in your 50s or 60s for general category specifically, right? So remember, uh, it happens, right? The journey to success is not always smooth when it comes to UPSC. Whenever you hear all the toppers speak, also, you will realize 9 out of 10 have gone through what you're going through today, right? So it's very, very important that you continue to stay motivated. Use this experience as a learning opportunity, meaning learn from what went wrong this year from your end, right? Try to think on that, right? What did others have who are comfortably seeming to clear the cutoff, okay? And what is it that you can work on, okay? Also, don't let prelims ka disappointment discourage you. Okay, it's part of the game, right? It's unfortunate, but it does happen. Now, instead, what you have to do is that sort of channelize this into some sort of positive energy, right? Put it into preparing for the next phase. UPSC mains is like treat this coming September, when you have this exam, 108 days. Even if you do not get a chance to write mains, please continue to approach it with the same dedication, same commitment, like you're actually writing the actual exam in September. Okay, so take every practice paper, take every sort of mock test, okay, as if you're sitting in the real exam hall. Okay, and by September, right, I encourage you to simulate the mains exam experience by writing the papers at home, okay, or in library, wherever, right? So on that same day when the exam is, so these 3.5 months, what do? You prepare like you're writing your mains. This will give you valuable practice. Okay, it'll build your confidence to a great extent because you would have also gone through mains. Okay, you would know your areas that you're strong in. You would also figure out what would be the areas that you have to sort of work, because in 3.5 months you may not be able to finish everything, but where are the areas where you need a little more effort, so you can put in one more month. Okay, and from January or something you could probably start with your prelims ka preparation. Okay, now this is like the biggest regret for most of the aspirants. Okay, because many allow for these crucial months to go waste. Okay, now this is something that you would really want to avoid. Okay, make the most out of this time. Utilize all the available resources. Okay, reach out to your mentors. Okay, work hard in this particular phase and try to, build on, whatever you've already built on so far. Okay, you will thank yourself later, right? Okay, so please don't allow for this time to slide. Okay, and you will thank yourself later for having, had the very, very productive, second half of 2023, even if it looks like 2023 is not the year in which you're going to get an opportunity to write your means. Right? So that is what I would want to again highlight as well. Okay. So with this, I would want to wrap up our video. So thank you for joining me today. And until next time, keep working hard, guys. Okay. And all the very best. And I will see you in the next one. Okay. Take care and bye-bye.